The meeting is called to order at 7 o'clock. May everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. As usual, we are being broadcast live on Van Buren Television Channel 12. Deputy Clerk Montgomery, will you please call the roll?
My pleasure. Trustee White?
Here.
Trustee Miller? Here. Trustee Martin?
Present.
Treasurer Bud?
Here.
Trustee Frazier? Here. Clerk Wright is absent and excused. Supervisor McNamara?
Here.
Have a quorum.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion.
Trustee Miller has made approval,
Support.
supported by Treasurer Bud. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, first of all, I'd like to add that the prepaid list of March 1st has been removed from the revised consent agenda. The revised consent agenda consists of the work study session minutes of February 21st, the board minutes of February 21st, the prepaid lists of February 24th, the voucher list of March 7th, and approval of the purchase of Dell Equal Disk Storage Array Information Technology, and that's it. Can I get a motion for approval of the revised consent agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Trustee White,
Support.
supported by Trustee Frazier. Hearing any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. We'll begin now with the public. We have no public hearing. We go now to correspondence. We will begin with the presentation by the Van Buren Civic Fund. Treasurer Bud, would you like to do the introductions?
Sure. I would like to ask the Civic Fund to come to the podium along with the person that does all our PR work, Dawn Dayton, and if we would join everyone at the podium.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having us and allowing us to make these grant presentations tonight. As you well know, the Van Buren Civic Fund has been in existence since 2004, started by a gift from Visteon Corporation. We have, in that time, granted more than $450,000 to nonprofits, the schools, our governments, and organizations in the township. The Van Buren Civic Fund has and continues to assist in reducing the burden on township government through financial support. And our mission, of course, is to enhance the quality of life for residents of Van Buren Township. We are proud and honored to be here tonight to make two grant presentations, one to Belleville High School for video production equipment in the amount of $7,432.71, and one to the Belleville Lacrosse Athletic Association for helmets, knee pads, and safety equipment in the amount of $4,800. So if I could have Belleville High School join us. Okay, you do this, I'm taking pictures.
Okay, guys.
All right. You can't climb right in. You better hold on to this.
Yeah, we can go to that.
Here, do you want me to? Here.
Do you guys want to do that?
Why don't you get in there and I'll fix it? Here you go.
Go ahead.
I think I could be away, except it, make it. Yeah, flip it around.
I don't know how to do that, just take it vertical. It's a phone, I don't know.
Hang on 1 second, because now Austin, just make it so that I can take a picture. I got a great picture of you.
Okay.
There we go. Except flip it. Flip it. Flip it. Right now I get me, not them.
Oh.
Sorry about this. I have an apple. Sorry. I have an apple. So. I have an apple. So. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Oh, did I take? Oh no, I turned it to video. Oh my gosh, I am so stupid. There we go. Now I got it.
All right, great.
And for the Belleville Lacrosse Athletic Association, we actually brought them practice equipment so they can get started today. So, will the Belleville Lacrosse Athletic Association please join us? You're welcome. Sorry. Techno stupid. And we are happy to present you with some equipment, too.
Thank you so much.
But Sherry has what you actually want.
There we go.
Right here, you're good.
All right, everybody ready?
Yeah, that's close.
1, 2, 3.
That's really close.
All right, Mark, you're there. I can see you.
Short guy.
Oh, wait, I cannot see Mr. Atchison.
Everybody on your
I
knees.
realize I didn't see you. There we go. Perfect. Now you're perfect. I can see everybody. There you go.
And once again, I just want to say thank you for allowing us this opportunity to continue to make grants to organizations in the township. And of course, in order to do that, we do have some fundraising. So I would like to let you know that on Saturday, May 20th, we are having the 3rd annual, I have flyers, you don't have to write. The 3rd annual Detroit Tigers Alumni Charity Softball Game, right back here at the fields behind the township. New this year, children 10 to 17 can play in the first 2 innings for a donation of $25. As we did not raise the cost of participation for adults, for a tax-deductible donation of $250, you can play baseball with the Detroit Tiger alumni. So please visit us on Facebook and on the web, and please always feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Through the chair. I'd just like to say what a honor it is to have a civic fund in our community and how much it's appreciated by improving the quality of life for the schools, for the students, for athletics, for everybody that lives in Van Buren Township. And we are very grateful for having people willing to step up to the plate and do the work and the fundraising that it takes to support the Civic Fund. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is a presentation to Sophia Zeller. Director Ireland, would you please bring Ms. Zeller up to the podium? Thank you. Why don't you say a few words about Ms. Zeller, and I'll go, and then she can speak.
I think that would be, sounds like a really good idea. And I'm going to give you a little history. Can you hear me? Okay. Actually, this is really an honor for me, but it's also a sad day. I'm really going to miss Sophie very much. And I've worked with her for a very, very long time. You probably don't remember meeting me for the first time, and that was before the DDA was in existence. It was back in July 18th, 1985, and you were on the Environmental Commission. And they needed a recording secretary for that evening, and I'd never done it before, so they said, "Oh, Susan, can you do it? Go ahead." And I remember you very well saying to me, "You'll do just fine." And I did survive. So then, on March 27th, 1990, the DDA had their very first meeting, and Sophia, you were one of the first members to be seated on the DDA Board of Directors. That was done when David Jagoks was the supervisor, and that's when I was told I was going to be the recording secretary.
Yep.
So we've gone a long way back. The other thing you probably don't realize is at that first, you actually made the motion that approved the resolution to approve the preliminary development plan and the tax increment finance plan, and that was back in 1990. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but at your insistence, the second project that the DDA ever did was we had a light installed over at September Days when they were located over at Cork School. And because it was said that oftentimes when they would go on trips and they'd come back and it was dark out and nobody could see, and you said that you thought it was dangerous. So we spent $3,500 and we put a light on at Cork School, what used to be. And then, on March 10th, in 1992, you were appointed secretary of the DDA, and you served in that up until right now.
Yep.
Yep, and you've rarely ever missed a meeting. When you took your oath of office, you took your responsibility very seriously, and I know that you like being on the DDA because you would say how wonderful it was to be able to do things to benefit the community. And it seems somewhat ironic that, Sophie, you made the first motion on the DDA, and at our last meeting last week, you made the last motion with regard to our placemaking project, and then you made the motion to adjourn that night. And I really will miss you. You are really a very special lady, and I'm proud to know you.
Thank you. DDA is the best. It is the best, really.
I tell people that want to join a board, I say that is the best board to be on. It's amazing what they do. I have probably never read one of these things in its entirety, but after 28 years, they can stand waiting. Whereas, this is from the township of Van Buren. Sophie Zoller moved to Belleville over 60 years ago, was married to Harry for over 30 years. They had one daughter, Pamela, and she has 4 grandchildren, Harry, Ryan, Austin, and Stephanie. Sophie Zoller has continually and selflessly served the residents of Charter Township of Van Buren, and you have. It is a rare occasion when one comes to know an individual whose highest calling is to serve others. Ms. Zoller is a person who exemplifies the objective of one dedicated to public service. Sophia comes from humble beginnings, where she and 5 brothers and 1 sister were raised in a Polish farming community, and her father was a potato farmer. And after graduation from high school, she furthered her education and graduated from Northeastern School of Commerce, which is now the Detroit Business College. She continued her education in business by attending the University of Detroit, Eastern Michigan University, Cleary College, and numerous correspondence classes. Ms. Zoller began her professional career at Tim Ken S. Axel, which later became Rockwell International and then Arvin Meritor. Madonna University is finally finishing her career at the University of Michigan. And Sophie is a 35-year member of a Belleville Professional Women's Club, now known as the Belleville Area Women's Club, representing and serving statewide and nationally, receiving the honor and distinction of being named Woman of the Year on 2 occasions. And 2 occasions, Woman of Achievement, she was also. Other memberships she dedicated her time to is the Roxwell Women's Club, St. Anthony's Mothers Club, Ladies Auxiliary of Veterans of Foreign Wars, Lady Auxiliary of the Loyal Order of the Moose, founding member of the Belleville Striders, St. Anthony's Guild, and chair of the St. Anthony's Strawberry Booth. Boy. Her personal achievement were to walk across the 5 miles of the Mackinac Bridge on Labor Day 19 times, and participation in the Race to the Summit, where she climbed 1,152 stairs. I walked that bridge. That is a long bridge.
5 miles.
Wow. Whereas her devotion to the community has been to serve as an election inspector for over 30 years, member of the Environmental Commission for approximately 15 years, an original and founding board member of the Van Buren Township Downtown Development Authority for 28 years, where the accomplishments to better the Van Buren DDA district has been of the highest caliber. Sophie has been instrumental in the many successes of the DDA and the community. Sophie remains active in 3 quilt groups, a sewing guild, 2 bowling leagues, and golf?
Yes.
Okay, I give up. All right. Now, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Van Buren do hereby applaud the hard work and dedication of Sophie Zoller, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Van Buren formally recognize Sophie Zoller for outstanding achievements and accomplishments, and express our great appreciation for the honor she brings our community. And be it further resolved that the Charter Township of Van Buren Board of Trustees express their gratitude and appreciation to Sophie for her unselfish acts of generosity. Be it finally resolved that this resolution honoring Sophie Zoller be presented to her on Tuesday, March 7th, at the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees at the Charter Township of Van Buren. We will be forever grateful.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much.
That is the nicest frame we've had, too. I think the DDA went out and bought a frame. We don't have one that
Get in
nice.
there, I'll you guys, get in there. With that, you got your DDA people, you got your DDA people here. There. One more.
She's short, but she's mighty.
Oh, Sophie, could you come up here? We want to shake your hand. Sophie? I got a stretch for you. I'm not sure we can do this, but come with me. Our board members want to shake your hand.
Sophie, you're a perfect example of an exemplary citizen, and we love you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your dedicated service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's such a pleasure. All I can say is, wow, you're running circles around Kevin.
You know, I'd just like to say, I've watched this woman bowl when, once a year, she always came out and bowled when we had a bowling league. And her and Ted Smolinski could really heat up them grounds, and
Wow.
she did a great job. So, Sophie, you will be missed, and you've got a lot of great memories, and we have a lot of fond memories, and thank you very much.
I'll miss being on the board, but I had to do it because it gets dark too quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
You forgot to put more streetlights in it. We could get more streetlights.
The DDA is the best.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.
You don't have to hang out all day, but you're welcome to stay. So we're moving on, okay? Public comment. Discussion is now open for public comment on new business agenda items. Non-agenda items will be heard at the end of the meeting. Go ahead.
Good evening, board and staff. First thing I would like to do is ask to deviate a little bit from your agenda on new business, because what I'm going to speak about is an item. And, but what, hold
I'm not going
on,
there.
hold on a minute, Supervisor, because you don't know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, before you came on to this board, this protocol was set up. So technically, I'm going to be talking about something that I was enlightened on today, but it hasn't been discussed. So how would I be able to speak about something that's on this agenda, a new business? If something comes up, I will raise my hand, because what I'm going to be talking about is line item number 1 that has not been discussed today yet. So whatever I talk about, after you're done debating it up there,
actually,
there may be a
please-
question that comes up that I want to ask this board about question number 1 after you debate
Asking
it.
a question on new business, right?
It is new business.
It's new business.
But
Go ahead and ask your
the
question.
public comment is now. It's before you talk about it. Unless I can read your crystal ball, I can't talk after I'm done with the public comment portion, after you create some sort of document or some sort of thought and theory for line item number 1 after I get a chance. And then technically with protocols, I can't come up under non-agenda to ask the question because it's non-agenda. That's why public comment should not be for new business items before you talk about the new business items,
Okay, the
correct?
revised, okay, I will give you that. The
Okay.
revised item
For
is
line
the
item
prepaid
1.
list has removed the expenditure for passport.
Correct. Well, actually,
The-
it's
the
it's
clerk
more
asked
than
for it to
that.
be wrote.
It's more than that. So now I will delve into this, still trying
That's
to
the only
keep
change that we've
open.
got.
It's not the change, it's the actual paying. The problem that I have, number 1, is that I think, Supervisor, you and the board should think very cautiously and go into some sort of corporate dialogue and some sort of meeting in the future on international travel and actually what that pertains to with the township, because this passport is tied in, caveated with the travel to Canada for our clerk that's an international clerk. I don't think at any time anything international should be carried on with this board, because anything that happens in Champaign, Quebec, or Toronto or whatever, that meeting should not have any bearing here. Now, the people that are coming from the United States to go there and talk about something, that can still be talked about in the States. So what I'm saying is we shouldn't have international travel to talk about the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or the International Skilled Trades Unions, or the International Clerks, or International Treasurers. I've noticed in the past that this township, through the voucher list, has paid for these groups that these township officials have belonged to for international travel and international works. The township is governed by the township through the charter. It belongs with the MTA, Michigan Township Authority or Association. Those are the things that interject. But to travel to Windsor or Quebec or wherever the clerk went to, that there should be no travel expenses for that. If you want to belong to that club, then you pay out of your pocket. Now, I just want to say one thing here. You see this right here? You might not all be able to see it, but I'll describe it to you. This is an enhanced driver's license. This enhanced driver's license gets me anywhere in Canada or Mexico or South America. It just doesn't get me to Russia and a few other places. This cost me $9 extra on top of my driver's license. It doesn't cost $110 for a passport. This is my passport if I wanted to go to that same place that the clerk went to for $9 more, not $110. How many times will the clerk be using that $110 passport for Van Buren Township business? I would say once. So that should be on the clerk, and it's not beating up on the clerk, because the clerk's had other issues with hot tubs and rooms in Frankenmuth and other things we're not going to talk about. But I'm saying any board member in the future even should not be using township funds to go internationally. I don't care if it's Cancun or Belize or Guatemala. That's not in the United States. So the purview of any topic that's for discussion at any one of those international committee meetings is a moot point with Van Buren Township. So us residents, we shouldn't pay for it. It should have never happened. The problem is that the way it was set up with the last supervisor to make international travel, whether the treasurer did it or somebody else, that wasn't on your watch. Now you're being aware of it. But I think a policy should be made that travel should be limited in the United States for United States learning or training or whatever else, but you don't need to go to Canada for the training. It's fine and dandy for a meeting business-wise, and the clerk or anybody else can belong to an international group, but this township shouldn't be paying a dime for that, nor should we be buying passports, because we shouldn't have to go across the bridge or go across the wall in Mexico or wherever it is to do township business. So I think that should be set up, and I think the board should look into some sort of policy so it doesn't happen again for...
This is coming up on our next thing. You've got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
And we don't respond on this thing, because right away we're gonna go into this.
You could respond to it, but you can do it on your own because it's line item number 1. So the $417 for the original travel and expenses is also part of the $110, because the line item before this on your prepaid list is $417.30, and then in addition it's another $110. So you're actually talking about $527.30, not just a passport refund.
correct.
Okay, so at $500, it might be a minuscule amount, but when I want to caveat this by going back and complaining about $30,000 Grand Marshal parade trucks that happened not on your watch but the previous, and then $80,000 for pickup trucks that we didn't need because they wanted a crew cab to put their jacket instead of putting it in a toolbox, the board needs to be fiscal responsible from now on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Is there anybody else with public comment? We're getting ready to, what he discussed anyway, so I'm glad everybody held their questions. I want to reiterate that at last night's work session, there were discussions among board members regarding the payment to the clerk for the purchase of a passport. Further discussion with the clerk last night has occurred, and he has agreed to reimburse the township for the passport expense. At this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the prepaid list of March 1st, 2017, with the understanding that the clerk will reimburse the township in the amount of $110 passport expense.
Mr.
We're going to go, we're taking motion right now.
Well, can't we have discussion first?
No.
We take motion.
All right.
Okay.
Supervisor, I would make a motion that we approve the March 1st, 2017 prepared list as presented, and noting that the clerk will reimburse for the passport that was paid for.
Okay, it's been moved, supported by trustee Martin. Okay, we're open for discussion now.
All right, question. So this was already paid for ahead of time and not just on the voucher? Explain that, because I didn't know that he was already paid for this since this conference isn't until May 21st.
Please, treasurer.
The thing is, he had to get the passport ahead of time, so he vouchered to get the money for the passport ahead of time so he could get it done before the last minute. So that was done, and it's on a prepaid list. Every voucher list has prepaid things. There's Detroit Edison bills, there's all these other things that we don't wait to pay so we aren't late. So there's some items come up and some are requested. So he had requested for this to be paid so we could go ahead and get the processing done for the passport. We have now had conversation with him, and he is going to reimburse the township for that money.
Well, I have to say that I did some checking on this myself today with Michigan Township Association, and I talked to the attorney about it because it did bother me, because I was like, a passport, I understand that he is taking classes, and that's noble, but this is travel abroad, and when you do that, you have to apply, of course, either for an Nexus card or a passport, but according to Michigan Township Association, we cannot be spending public money on private identification. This is a form of identification. It's personal identification. They explained it to me as, you wouldn't pay for a suitcase, so why would, you cannot use public funds to pay for a passport. Why didn't anyone check on that before we got to this point? I did.
That's a good question.
This was the first call I made this morning, that's why I knew exactly what you were saying, the luggage, because I called the MTA lawyers. I did ask why he thought that the passport was, he did give me stuff from the thing that showed, that they basically said, you need a passport to enter and leave Canada, whether you're going land, sea, or water, we recommend a passport. I'm not sure that those licenses that we have aren't good enough, but he stated that he did not think that they were. He thought because he never leaves the country that it was okay to do that. He has taken back that position.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I agree with, just as I said yesterday at the work study, that a passport is identification. It would be like us paying for his driver's license as far as I'm concerned. It is illegal for a government body to pay for somebody's passport. We've already declared that. But I wonder also why the clerk didn't use his common sense in researching it.
He is not here to answer that, so
Okay.
I
And
just change your question, please.
enhanced driver's license, we were told that you can't go to Montreal. This is what was
Flight-wise.
discussed.
Flight-wise, that's what they told us. We don't know.
Okay, but it's our job, excuse me, but it's our job to know. We are responsible for the taxpayer's dollar. We are supposed to be fiscally frugal on spending taxpayers' money. And if we are gonna do these kind of things, then all the I's should be dotted and the T's crossed. And we have a responsibility to the taxpayers to know what can be spent and what can't be spent. I'm for not having international travel.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary. I don't see the benefit to our township directly. I applaud the clerk for being a part of the International Clerks Association, but I think that is great, but it's his responsibility to, if he would like to participate in their conferences. I also would like to suggest that we revisit our policies here and we put together, what I was thinking was, because as a new board member, I don't know anything about who's going to what conference and what's going on here. All I know is that from what Ms. Montgomery said yesterday, that the clerk has gone to 2 or 3 conferences already this year. I know he's going to the Michigan Township Conference. That's like a week or so. And I'm just saying, I'd like to know, I would like to propose that we take all the conference money, and it comes before the board
let me-
so that we approve the
I'm gonna
conferences.
break off you, because
Okay.
I got you 2 or 3 times the same thing. You're right. You have the power to change policy. If you want to revisit it, you
That's
can,
what we want.
okay?
Through the chair.
Um,
I'd like to put that on the next work
Is it
study.
on her comment, because she's going next otherwise?
What I was going to say as well is that, and this can be alleviated, having these mistakes made public like this. Not that they shouldn't, of course they should, but we need a policy, a travel policy in place for the elected officials and appointed officials as well. We don't have that right now. So we don't know who's going where or how long.
Somewhat do, but we need.
We really need to fine tune this, and this could be avoided by simply having a policy. You know what? How about a discussion at our next work study to visit possibly developing a travel policy for elected and appointed officials? Do
We
I
can
have
do that.
support on that?
We can do
Support.
that. You have 2 trustees, and you can do that. Please, Dan,
Do-
make sure that happens.
How does the board feel about that?
Well, you've got 2 trustees, you've got it right now, okay? Just to be clear, though, he did follow the procedures. The one thing on the passport, was he didn't need any backup signatures, although it had to be listed on the voucher, so it's not like it's getting away with anything. He made a mistake as far as I'm concerned. He shouldn't have asked for a passport, and I think that most everybody on this board believes that. It was, I believe it was an honest mistake, because I got all this paperwork that says passport, although I would have checked for the license plate. I don't think it was
It
$100.
wasn't out of
We're
malice.
not
Of course
saying
not.
that,
No
we're
one's
not
implying
saying
that.
it was
Okay.
maliciously done, but we're saying those kind of things should not be done unless they're checked into first. That's what I have an issue with. It wasn't applying for a passport. Miss Budd is the treasurer, and she saw it on there, and she didn't question it. Had we not questioned it, I don't know if it would have been brought up.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Sherry, don't go there.
Why?
Because it was prepaid.
It was
But
prepaid.
I did not sign it. Sean signed that one. I did not see it when it came through. I did not see it
$100
till the
item a
same time you
department
did.
head can approve on their own.
So I did
Okay,
not see
You
it.
didn't see it.
I did not.
Trustee White.
Is mileage going to be prepaid?
Mileage is, I pulled the policy on it. Travel expenses will be issued when requested in advance. I then decided to check on the costs to drive versus fly. Flying was $400, $417, he tells me, and driving was, his reimbursement would be $634.24.
But I'm talking about the prepaid on the
Yes,
conferences.
it is listed in our thing, and it turns out that quite a few people use it. And quite frankly, I like it, because it allows me to Google the distance from A to B instead of going off an odometer.
Right,
which
I understand that.
Who knows where they went on the way.
And,
The problem, through the chair, if I may, the problem with having a prepaid mileage is suppose you don't make that trip.
Well, actually, they have
Hi-
1 week in this thing to
It says in
present.
the policy.
Yeah, they must present all the receipts within 1 week afterwards.
Well, you know what, this could be revisited when we have
Sure.
our discussion, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Through the chair, I agree. I don't think we should prepay for something that hasn't even been attended yet.
I would argue the other
You
way,
know.
so that's gonna be something we're gonna have to discuss, because we have quite a few people that do attend some of these things and training things that are workers, our frontline workers literally, that do travel.
That's different, though.
And quite frankly, they could use the money to
Right.
get there and back.
That's a little different than elected officials, but
yeah.
we can work that out.
Okay, all right. Is there any other questions?
yes,
Trustee White.
at last night's work study, it was stated that this was in the budget, the clerk's budget. So I went through, it's in the narratives of the clerk's budget.
That's what I thought too.
So I checked the narratives of the clerk's budget, and the only thing that relates to that, it says historically minimal training has been afforded to staff. In 2017, we are requesting a funding increase in training with a line item number for account clerk, elections training, human resource training, and certification, as well as computer application training and Excel Word members.
I was told by that department that it was in there, and when I were visited in the morning, it was not.
Okay.
It says training, and they said that's where it is, it's our training.
Oh.
I said, well, you're not being specific.
No.
And
And actually, the elections training has their own budget. And this is all in the elections training. The human resources person is no longer in there. At the first of the year, I think she came to the supervisor's department.
she is.
Okay? And also, I was online today, and I was checking, and as you stated, airplane tickets to their economy class are anywhere from $290 to $400. Economy class with 2 stops. I didn't even go to first class to see what first class was. Also,
first class, sorry.
pardon?
We wouldn't go first class.
Okay.
Well, we're going
Well,
first class.
Well, and also hotels were 140 American prior to fees.
Actually, he didn't pay for anything there.
That's true, but I'm just giving you.
He received a check for $600 from the Association of Wayne County Clerks to attend the conference.
Right. But
I
that's.
wanna make sure that's known, too.
That's the fee with
He applied for a
19.5%
grant and got it.
taxes on top of there. So there's,
So he, in one way, he did a good job, and another way, he did something that I think he regrets. I don't know.
No way do I think it was malicious.
I can't speak for another elected official when they're not here. So, he's,
But these kind of things, what I'm getting at is these kind of things don't need to happen if we do our homework. I could put in, all kinds of expenses too, and maybe it would get caught, maybe it wouldn't. Let's
would get
have a
caught.
policy.
It would get caught.
Let's
Nothing doesn't
let's
get
have a
caught.
policy that addresses these things. That's clear.
I think we've already decided that we were going to revisit this policy and come up with a policy in place, so I think we're just dragging this on.
Thank you. Trustee Martin.
Okay, so I do have,
Reiterating the
yeah.
importance of having that
So-
discussion.
I think the discussion is complete.
He doesn't.
I don't think you have a say in this one.
The answer that I was talking about to deviate
I'm
from
not-
this.
you know
Line
what?
item number 1 is the prepaid list. The prepaid list isn't one item. The prepaid list was the travel and the passport. What I'm trying to say, you missed the whole ball game here. The whole ball game was leaving and going across the bridge, whether you're flying, driving, or swimming, and going to another country to perform a service for Van Buren Township. Let me ask you something.
That's
If
a
an
policy
invitation,
decision.
Supervisor, if
No.
if an invitation to Greece comes up in June, are we going to have a representative from this township in Greece to an
Probably
international?
not.
Okay, that's what needs to be stated
Apparently,
here.
the policy allows it. So please, Mr.
It doesn't
Delaney,
allow it. There is, it's
You've had your time,
ambiguous.
seriously.
Well, that's why I asked to follow up for number 1,
Okay.
because you didn't talk about the travel. You
Don't-
talked about a passport.
We did. We're gonna have
Get to the
we're gonna
bottom of it.
revisit the policy, sir. Okay. Now then, I have a motion for approval by Treasurer Butt. It is supported by Treasurer Martin, Trustee Martin, to consider approval of the March 1st prepaid list as amended. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, to consider approval of the reappointments of Craig Atchison and Chris Brown and the appointment of Don Chappelle to our Downtown Development Authority with terms to expire on March 9th, 2021. Can I get a motion before discussion?
I make the motion.
It's been moved by Trustee Miller,
Support.
supported by Trustee Frazier. Okay, any discussion? Come on forward. There you are, Director.
Hi, I'm back again. Well, as two things. Chairman Atchison, he has said that he would like to continue serving in his capacity on the DDA, as well as Chris Brown. Both of them are business owners within the district. And since Ms. Zoller decided that she did not want to continue serving, we have another candidate who I think is well qualified. She lives in the DDA district. Her name is Dawn Chappelle, and she actually came here tonight You want to stand up and
Why don't you
wave?
guys come on up? Because we're gonna want to thank you anyway.
Again.
Yeah. Well, that's right, we did already. So I want to say thank you from here. Get up there.
He was on the civic fund.
I don't think there's any questions. These are two excellent candidates, and
And you and I did meet with Dawn and had conversation with her.
explain how
Yeah.
important the DDA was to the growth of our community. I think she's passionate about it. She lives in the DDA, which is an important aspect of the DDA piece.
And she also, on Public Safety Day, as it was pouring rain on me, she came out and she rolled her sleeves up and she helped fill up all that stuff that we give away. So I really did appreciate it at the time.
Craig's largesse of giving to the community is legendary already, and he's been a wonderful president of the DDA. I know that he starts his meetings on time and moves them right along. I think she agrees. Thank you.
You know, unless you have specific questions, I don't,
Nothing but thank you
Yeah.
for serving. It's important that we have good members.
I'm so not used to this. Thank you.
And Mr. Atchison, thank you for doing your part on improving your facility on Belleville Road. It's a beautiful facility that really adds a certain posh to our community, and we're grateful for that.
We're really proud of it. You know, one of the great things I think too is my employees are very proud of it too, because going through the project is look at our building, and I've had a lot of very positive comments. I appreciate that from all of you and people in the community, and I think it looks great.
Oh,
I think it looks
does.
great. It turned out well. And thanks to your staff here that it was a long process, but you know, they got us through it and they did an excellent job of helping us through. So, but thank you guys very much for all you did.
and there,
Also, thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, Don.
Thank you. We're
and
looking
nobody
to
does
big
it for, this is a non-compensated position, so people are doing it just because they want to do it for the community.
We have some great stuff coming up too.
Yeah,
I
we
think
do.
everyone will be excited about what we have going on too.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, at any rate, hearing no further discussion. Trustee Wright? Work. You know, Dawn, I forgot, she worked at the, Kohl's, she's an electronic engineer. And Kohl's now. And she lives in the DDA in the north section, which I think I just bought a house here.
Greenbrier. Greenbrier, yes.
All right,
I make a motion.
we already have it.
Oh, all right.
I have a motion for approval by trustee Miller, supported by trustee Frazier, to consider approval of the reappointments of Craig Atchison and Chris Brown, and the appointment of Don Chappelle to the Downtown Development Authority, with terms to expire March 9th, 2021. Hearing no further questions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome back. Welcome to the DDA.
Thank you.
Thank you. Walk the line.
Line.
Welcome, Todd.
Yeah, you were just running around picking up paper.
I wasn't even born yet. Thank you. Good. How are you? Thanks. Good job. Thanks, children. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, exciting times. Okay, number 3. To consider approval of the second, final 7 attempts, 20 years in the making. The second final reading of ordinance 02-21-17, parentheses 1, an ordinance to grant the exclusive use and enjoyment of township-owned property around Belleville Lake to the abutting property owners. May I have a motion for
I
approval?
make a motion, we approve the
I have a
final
motion
reading.
for approval from trustee Frazier, supported by treasurer Budd. Director Akers, could you take over?
Thank you. Before the Township Board are 3 ordinances, items 3, 4, and 5, which comprise what has typically been referred to as the shoreline ordinance or the Belleville Lake ordinance. It's my intent just to, as we did at the previous meeting, give just a brief background of where we're at, where we came from, and then I'll go through a review of each ordinance one by one if that pleases the board. Van Buren Township has in the past attempted to adopt some type of regulations managing the shoreline around Belleville Lake, at least from records I could tell 7 times. Each time an ordinance has been proposed, it has not received favorable public support, and due to this, the attempt has failed. This most recently occurred in February 2016. After it was clear there was little support, the Township's Planning Commission directed staff, Deputy Director Best and myself, to make an effort to work with the residents along the lake in order to address the issues with the proposed ordinance. So, between May of 2016 and November of 2016, Township staff conducted several meetings with a variety of lakefront property owners to evaluate the proposed ordinance, to make sure we were addressing specific concerns which were brought up during the public hearings. Our approach to these meetings has been to allow the residents around the lake to take the lead in the modification of the ordinance, and as a result, we feel we have developed regulations which ensures the township's obligations to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and provides clarity and resolution to lakefront property owners with regards to the township-owned property around Belleville Lake. As I had indicated in the previous couple meetings, I just want to say again, the individuals who participated on the Lakeshore Work Group spent a lot of time and a lot of volunteer hours working with this to create it in the format that's before you today. So several of those members spent a lot of time, and I wanted to say thank you if they're watching at home.
They were wonderful.
Going through that, I will give an overview of item number 3, which is the general exclusive use ordinance. This is the first ordinance that's being considered. The primary intent of the ordinance is to grant the abutting property owner the exclusive right of use of the township-owned property around Belleville Lake. This area is delimited by the zoning ordinance amendment, which is item number 4, which addresses where the specific exclusive use boundaries are. In return for this exclusive right of use, the township is requiring that the abutting property owner maintain the township lake property in compliance with all existing applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Again, I know we've discussed this in length before. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions about that particular ordinance.
Are there any questions? I've asked every question I can possibly think of over the last 4 months.
I think we've studied it, and we appreciate all the effort from Deputy Director Best and Director Akers. And they're working with the community. It was a great opportunity to see how the community came together and all the input that they had from the community regarding the Lakeshore ordinance and putting a new one together. I think it really was to our advantage because it's a win-win for the township as far as I'm concerned, because we're giving them the use of the property, but they have to take care of it. So it's a win for us too. So I'm all for it.
I want to mention Mr. Holly, who did a lot of the work. There's too many probably to start that game, but okay. Okay, hearing no further, no further discussion, I have a motion for approval by Trustee Frazier and supported by Treasurer Budd to consider approval of the final reading of ordinance 022117, parentheses 1, an ordinance to grant the exclusive use and enjoyment of township-owned property around Belleville Lake to the abutting property owners. This requires a roll call vote. Deputy Clerk, will you call the roll?
Treasurer Budd?
Yes.
Trustee Frazier?
Yes.
Trustee Martin?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Supervisor McNamara?
Yes.
Clerk Wright is excused. Trustee White?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion passes. Great. Okay, we're moving on. To consider approval of the second final reading of ordinance 022117, parentheses 2, an ordinance to amend the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance 6292 to add a new article regarding the Belleville Lake shoreline districts. Can I get a motion?
Supervisor?
Thank you.
I give you a motion.
I have a motion for approval by Trustee Miller and supported by
Bud. I approve, second.
supported by Treasurer Budd. To consider approval of the second, okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none. I have a motion for approval by trustee Miller and supported by treasurer Bud to consider approval of the second final reading of ordinance 02-21-17, parentheses 2, an ordinance to amend the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance 6-2.92 to add a new article regarding the Belleville Lake shoreline districts. Deputy Director Clerk Montgomery, would you please call roll?
Supervisor McNamara,
Yes.
Clerk Wright is excused, Treasurer Bud.
Yes.
Trustee Frazier.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
And Trustee White.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Next item, consider approval of the second final reading of ordinance 02-21-173, an ordinance to amend the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance 6292 to rezone those portions of township-owned Belleville Lake parcels that are located below the 655-foot contour line, 1929 NGVD, or Brow of the Hill, to Belleville Lake shoreline districts. Can I get a motion before we continue discussion?
Supervisor, I make a motion to accept this
Support.
proposal.
Okay. It's been moved for approval by trustee Martin
Miller.
and supported by trustee
Miller.
Miller. Okay.
Supervisor.
Is there any discussion?
Supervisor. I would just like to say that the work group comprised of not only members of Van Buren Township, but also residents of Belleville that live on the lake. And I would just like to commend them for the job well done. And I think this is an agreement that they'll be able to live with.
Through the chair,
Trustee Miller.
could we send, Mr. Akers sent us a list of all those homeowners that worked on this. Could we send them a letter of thank you from the township?
From the board? Sure.
Yes.
Please. Dan?
Supervisor.
Yes, trustee White.
The Planning Commission and Environmental Commission spent a considerable amount of time with these three ordinances. I think that the residents were involved in this, and the majority of the residents approved this ordinance, or all three of the ordinances as they were made, and the residents were an important part in helping to make the determination of what would be satisfactory to our residents in coordination with the DEQ and the ordinance officers of our township, and also the DNR. So this was a collaboration with Van Buren Township, the officials of the state, and also the residents. And the residents played a very, very important part in this. And I think for the majority of them are very happy, so that should make all of us happy. Thank you, Director Best and Director Akers, for your help and support in accomplishing this.
I know I've heard from Helen Foster, Cindy King, and this is a pretty big deal. And we are about to take the last vote. So, hearing no further discussion, I have a motion for approval by trustee Martin and supported by trustee Miller to consider approval of the second final reading of ordinance 02-21-1C7, parentheses 3, an ordinance to amend the Van Buren Township zoning ordinance 6292 to rezone those portions of township-owned Belleville Lake parcels that are located below the 655-foot contour line, 1929 NGVD, or Brow of the Hill, to Belleville Lake shoreline districts. Hearing no further discussion, Deputy Clerk Montgomery, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Frazier.
Yes.
Trustee Martin.
Yes.
Trustee White.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Treasurer Bud.
Yes.
Supervisor McNamara.
Yes.
And Clerk Wright is excused. Motion carried.
Congratulations. Okay. Thank you very much, Director and Deputy Director. Great job. Line item number 6. To consider approval of the first reading of ordinance 3717 to amend and replace ordinance 12115, Article 5, coal tar products, section 42-151 through 42-158, with new article V coal tar products, section 42-151 through 42-159. Can I get a motion before we begin discussion?
Paul?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Been moved by Treasurer Bud, supported by
Supported.
Trustee White. Director, could you take us on, Deputy Director, could you take us down this road?
Yes, thank you, Board. You have before you tonight a amending and replacement of a previous ordinance that was adopted in December of 2015, which bans coal tar-based sealant products in the township. The coal tar ban was instituted in response to finding out, and in the work of David Wilson, finding out that coal tar-based sealants contain PAHs. PAHs are highly carcinogenic and are readily transportable and movable from the coal tar-based sealants that we place on our parking lots and driveways. When rainwater hits the parking lots and driveways covered with a PAH-based, coal tar-based sealant, those PAHs are lifted up, transported into our lakes and streams, as well as our detention ponds. These items can cause long-term health effects, as well as when your kids are out and playing on the driveway with chalk, they are in contact with these PAHs. And therefore, to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents, in 2015, we outlawed 1% or greater PAH-based sealant products from our township. Since that time, we were the first in the state of Michigan to do that. Since that time, we've noticed that other communities have picked up the torch that this previous board approved, and added a couple beneficial additions to the ordinance that we used. Tonight, I'm presenting to you some additions we think from them would be beneficial to us. The first one is to lower the acceptable PAH limit from 1% to 0.1%. The EPA and other communities who have bans for much longer than us feel that the 0.1% is a better number to protect our residents. Secondly, we have added an enforcement process to this ordinance. This enforcement process allows a violation of the coal tar ban to be a misdemeanor and be punishable in court by a district court or judge with fines not more than $10,000 at the discretion of the court, in addition to all court costs, damages, expenses provided. This is not set up as a punishment for our residents. This is set up for basically the commercial applicators that are applying these items, because residential products that you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards are asphalt-based sealants, okay? The 5-gallon tubs that you buy in the stores are asphalt-based, which have the low pH content that meets our ordinance. Our commercial applicators can apply either coal tar-based or asphalt-based products. They are both similar in use, they're similar in application, they're similar in price, and they're similar in durability and protectiveness of your driveway. So you can get these at any place. The commercial applicators can get them at the same place. On one side of the field that they have the tankers is the asphalt base, and one side of the field of the tankers is the coal tar based. How are we going to manage this enforcement process? The third component is a sealant applicator registration. In order to do business or sealant business, pavement sealant business in Van Buren Township, one must register as a sealant contractor with our building department, just as our plumbers, electricians, mechanical, and builders currently do now. This registration will be good for 1 year, and when they sign that registration form, they're also signing that they understand that coal tar-based sealant or sealant with 0.1% or greater pHs are not allowed to be applied in the township. They'll have that registration form approved, and they carry that with them wherever they go, saying that as long as they're in the township, they can apply the proper product. So with that, we believe that these 3 changes to the ordinance that we already have will protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents much better than our current ordinance does now. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Through the chair, just to thank the Environmental Commission for the work they had done on this. And of course, we want to remember all the work that Dave Wilson did while he was with us to make sure that this came through. And thanks to all involved.
Okay.
And I think this was a long process. I think David and I discussed this over 2 years ago, if I'm correct, and or maybe even before that and everything, and he was always making me aware of the odors from the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. and it was, he was very emphatic about this, and it tickles me to death that his work is being recognized, and we're accomplishing his desire.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, I have a motion by Treasurer Bud and supported by Trustee White to consider approval for the first reading ordinance 3717 to amend and replace ordinance 12115, Article B, coal tar products, Section 42-151 through 42-158, with new Article V, coal tar products, Section 42-151 through 42-159. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you.
To consider approval of the special land use request by Menards Incorporated to construct a home improvement store with outdoor sales and storage of landscaping and home improvement supplies at parcel V-125-83-06-19-0005-721. Can I get a motion before we continue discussion?
Supervisor McNamara. I'm especially proud to make the motion to consider approval of the special land use request by Menards Incorporated to construct a home improvement store with outside sales and storage of landscaping and home improvement supplies at parcel V-125-83-061-99-0005-721, which is located on the west side of Belleville Road, south of Tyler Road.
I'm especially proud to support it.
Okay, we've got a motion we've got the approval and the support. Can you take it away, Mr. Akers?
Yes, I first off want to start by apologizing. Mr. Nuttleman, who's the representative from Menards, apologizes that he was unable to make it tonight. Apparently there was an issue with the weather and them flying in, so he's not available here to make a presentation. But I want to go through, as we did last night at work study, just a quick background of this project. Menards have been in discussion to construct a store on the Belleville Road corridor since prior to 2012. The most recent iteration obtained special use approval from the Township Board in February 2015 and final site plan approval from the Planning Commission in June of 2015. As we had indicated at work study, after obtaining their approvals, Menards decided that early in 2016 they would postpone new store construction nationally in order to reevaluate the economic conditions after the presidential election. Representatives from Menards contacted the township in late 2016 and indicated that they planned to resume the construction of the Van Buren Township store. After they had contacted us, staff reviewed their application. We reviewed their approvals because we wanted to make sure that we were not only moving forward in an expedited fashion because they had already been approved, but we wanted to make sure that we got all of the renewals correct. So in order to do that, we determined that Menards needed to renew their variances, they needed to renew their planning commission approvals, and they also needed to get a special use permission again from the township. So Menards was before the Board of Zoning Appeals on February 14th, 2017, where they renewed several of the variances that were previously granted. 2 hours before the meeting on February 14th, 2017, the representatives from Menards stopped in and conducted a public meeting for those residents that are within the 300-foot buffer to answer any potential questions for any new owners, because this project had been going on for such a long time. Additionally, the Menards project went before the Planning Commission on February 22nd, 2017, where the Planning Commission renewed the applicant's final site plan approval, renewed their tree removal permit, and made a recommendation that the Township Board approve the special use request. There was a public hearing conducted at the February 22nd meeting where only one resident showed up to the public hearing and made positive remarks regarding the development. The Township Board originally approved the special land use application at their February 17th meeting, and I had included in the packet of materials a copy of the motion that was originally made at that time. The conditions of the property have not changed, nor have any circumstances surrounding the property changed. As I had indicated last night, this is the final board approval required in order for the Menards store to move forward with construction. And based on that prior approval and the limited changes to the site plan, there's a recommendation that has been included in the memo. I spoke with the construction representatives from Menards today. If the board decides to move forward with this application tonight, they will begin tree clearing in late March. They selected a local contractor to do it, perform the work. So they're going to be moving forward rather quickly if the board grants approval. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that the Township Board might have regarding this request.
Any questions? This is wonderful.
Comment.
Go ahead, Clerk Wright. Clerk White, Trustee White.
I don't think anyone in this township is happier than I am to see Menards to come to Van Buren Township. In 2010, I made a couple of phone calls to Wisconsin and had discussions with people there, and it took me another month to get up to the person who was responsible for selecting sites. I also was in discussion with Dick Sloan, who owns a tremendous amount of property here and along Belleville Road, and the old Farmer Jack's was a primary location because Menards loves to be on the freeway with their sign up in the air where everybody can see them. Well, eventually the Farmer Jack site fell through, and I thought that we were lost at that point in time. But I'm very happy to see them come back. I had several meetings with them in the office, and once Dick Sloan and Menards agreed to use the Farmer Jack property, at that point a decision was made that that's where they wanted it, and the lot, they needed the lot squared off, and we went to the 4-H Fairgrounds and had a discussion with the 4-H Fairgrounds to square the lot off, and that was approved by the 4-H Fairgrounds that Dick Sloan would buy approximately an acre there to make that lot straight back and squared so that Menards could build there. But eventually there was a problem with stormwater there, and it kind of went by the wayside for a wee bit. And at that point, it was bought back, and I'm just very happy to see that we're going to have a home improvement store built in our neighborhood.
So, through the chair. So, Paul, you solicited Menards to come here? Is that what you're saying? It's just so I understand this correctly, because I'm ready to give you a big hand.
No, I spent 3 months by myself and didn't tell anyone because I didn't want it out into the community. And I had discussions with Dick Sloan, and Dick Sloan called me, and I had discussions with Menards in Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
So they contacted us and then you had
No,
discussions?
no.
So you went to them first
Yes.
initially?
Yes.
So you solicited them to come here?
For over 3 months, okay?
Awesome,
And
okay.
it took me that long to get up to where we could do it. And at the same time, I was in a conference and consultation with Dick Sloan, who owns a lot of the property. He owns the Farmer Jack property there and everything else. And on one morning, I forget what morning it was, Thursday or Friday morning, all of a sudden the telephone rings at 10 o'clock, and he was in California. And Dick Sloan told me, he says, Paul, Menards and I have finally agreed to a price on the Farmer Jack property. He says, but we have to make sure that we go to the 4-H Fair Club and Association and see if we can buy an extra parcel of land on their parking lot on the south side behind the motel so that we can square off the building, and it will ease the process of getting him to come here. So they applied at that point in time and went through, and the retention pond was an issue, the stormwater was an issue, and there was some discussion about that and everything with the county, and that kind of shut that down for a while. But then they came back and decided on this location. So,
Well, kudos to you.
Yes.
right. And there's other businesses in the works too. So
This is a big plus for the township.
it's an outstanding plus for our township. Okay, it saves all of our residents driving 5-6 miles on down the road.
But unfortunately, it does hurt some of our smaller businesses like in town, the hardware store and it's gonna impact their business, but.
Well, maybe not, because there's no place else in our community that sells lumber and some of the things that Menards sells. Menards sells a lot of, not groceries, but a lot of things that construction workers want to pick up a quick snack with when they come in there, an outdoor garden. So we'll have an extra choice there. That building is going to go up very fast because Menards creates the concrete panels to put that building together. And a semi-truck will come in overnight with those panels, and they'll stack them up, and they'll just keep going until it's built. Menards also makes their own tools, okay? They have a little steel mill up in Eau Claire, or not, up in Wisconsin someplace there, that they use to create a lot of their own tools. Menards also owns a lumber company, and they cut a lot of their own lumber. And they own a huge tract of land with a lot of lumber on it, and they actually take some lumber in from Canada to go to their mill, and they create a lot of their own 2x4s, 2x6s, everything else. So it's a turnkey program for them.
Well, we all look forward to that grand opening.
Right, right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. I have a motion for approval by trustee White and supported by trustee Miller to consider approval of the special land use request by Menards Incorporated to construct a home improvement store with outdoor sales and storage of landscaping and home improvement supplies at parcel V-125-83-06-1-99-0005-721. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Big day. Got the Lakeshore ordinance through and Menards through. Okay, we have no reports. I have announcements, but I can go a little later on. Does anybody else have an announcement? Sherry?
I would like to announce that this year there will be no dog clinic. We have lost our veterinarian, and we haven't found anyone else that wants to do that job. In the last few years, the attendance has been very low, so we have decided that this year we're going to cancel, just so you know. The dog licenses are in the office, and they will go on sale April 1st, and we still would like to make sure you get your dogs vaccinated and come in and get their license.
Okay, I'm going to have a couple announcements here. It followed up with something that we just got about an hour and a half ago. But we just to let you know, the Pistons are going to be here at the Firehouse number 2 on March 10th from 11 to 12. And Hooper, their little, whatever they call that, a donkey, and a bunch of the Pistons are going to be here. They're going to give away tickets, and they're going to give away swag, shirts and stuff. 11 to 12 at our Firehouse. So it'll be kind of a fun thing. Firehouse number 2.
Number 2.
Is that on Belleville?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
What day?
The 10th. So,
And who do we have to thank for this at the time?
actually, you have Belfour to thank for this. Okay? Just, all right.
Is that gonna be
What's those
advertised?
hours again, Kevin?
11 to 12. They're going to go to 6 different fire stations. They're starting at 11 at ours. So that's, ours is the only one I'm sure they'll make.
Fire station number 2,
Yes, yes.
Belleville Road.
In addition, we have a Parks and Recreation grant. We have been working a long time with the state of Michigan on the Iron Bell Trail. We have nothing to do with where it goes or what it does, but we do know that it's going to cut through Belleville. But we have been pushing as a group that we want it down here on River Drive. We received notification that we have $30,000 now to begin the easement process to buy land on Huron River Drive where we have no sidewalks, but we will have sidewalks and a bike trail, or at least we will have some kind of a trail through there. Step 2 is we are going to try and get them to continue down here in River Drive so that from Belleville Road to Rawsonville Road, we can develop some kind of a passable thing. It's a bad area for people to walk. It's just really tough for them. So we're very thankful that the Iron Bell decided to come our way, and they're going to pay for us to cut across our town, which isn't going to be cheap because of the easements.
Supervisor, who spearheaded this in the Park and Recreation? Who do we have to thank?
Actually, Iron Bell was coming here. We just didn't know which way they were going to go. So we as a group, Ron, Matt, Wright, Director Wright, Zanglin, we all made sure that we spoke with one voice whenever we talked to them, here on River Drive, here on River Drive, here on River Drive. And so every time they'd say, well, what about this cut through DDA? And take the new overpass. We kept on pushing here on River Drive, and thankfully they heard us, so.
Thank you.
Supervisor, what section of HRD?
I'm sorry?
What section of here in River Drive?
The first one will go between the Metro Park and Belleville city limits. And I'm sure Belleville City would probably.
Because it
receiving
connects
something.
the trail, correct?
Yes. It was, we were lucky with geography, and now we're lucky that they're handling a problem that we have, but we've been trying to figure out how to fix.
And with Metro Park, that'll be the north entrance, correct?
Actually, that'll continue on down to wherever it goes from. I think it's Erie.
Yeah, it'll connect with the Metro Park.
It goes all the way up to.
Bike path, right.
Traverse City. So it's a long trail. Sophie Zoller probably could walk it.
She probably could.
And I have other news too. Yesterday I reported that we received a $50,000 Summer Works Program grant. And that program grant would provide us with 6 weeks of labor up to 20 hours a week, $9 an hour, ages 15 to 19. And we were going to put them to work helping out indigent and home and blight and things like that. The problem was we were hoping to pair it with another grant, which we were informed 2 weeks ago that we had won, but we were told to keep it secret. So we've been keeping it secret because we haven't gotten the paperwork. I just met with Wayne County, and tonight is Warren Evans' speech. He's probably finishing it up right now. And we met behind the stage, and I said, I need that paperwork, I need the thing moving through, because we got this other one. And they told us that we have permission to announce it loud and clear that we are a community group recipient of $300,000 in money. But now, just to be clear, we won this. What they did is they took away 10%, which was $17,000 of our money, and they took it away from every single community out there. And then they said, well, now if you want it back, you have to competitively go after it.
Correct.
Okay, so we had to compete against everybody west of Telegraph, Brownstown, Taylor, Livonia, Northfield. We knew we weren't going to win this thing alone. So we developed a strategy, thanks to Ron Akers and Matt Best.
And Patrick Sloan.
And Patrick Sloan, I have to give McKenna credit for that. That we developed, how many cities did we put together?
5.
5 cities, but you're gonna love the cities, go ahead. She sits on the board that decided who got it. Of course, she was one.
Really? We had
an insider.
We had one vote there, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
All right.
Well, but the county had 3, so.
Yeah.
So, but how many cities,
Here in Township, there's us, there's the city of Belleville, there's Sumter, and Garden City.
and we called them up, so we actually asked those communities to join us. And so, you can feel good when you talk to Sumter, Belleville, that we didn't leave our Belleville area friends behind. We made sure that they joined us. We called down there, we went down, got paperwork. We made sure they joined us. The $300,000 is to be split between us. It is not split evenly. It is basically whoever spends it first wins. We're gonna be aggressive in fixing our problems. Now, I'm sure they're gonna make sure that each community gets X amount of dollars.
Maybe
Ron, could you come forward and tell us
he
more?
could tell you what the program is called and how the money is gonna go through that program.
Yeah, so the program is called the Western Wayne Region Housing Rehab Program. So as we had indicated before, Van Buren Township has partnered with the City of Belleville, Sumter Township, the City of Garden City, and Huron Township to perform this housing rehab program. So the purpose of a housing rehab program is to provide housing rehab assistance for low to moderate income residents who are eligible under the Department of Housing and Urban Development's guidelines. This program, in addition to the other communities who we've partnered with, we also partnered with the Wayne Metropolitan Community Action Agency, who will actually be administering the program. The advantage of having the Wayne Metropolitan Community Action Agency administer the program is because they have several other building improvement programs where a lot of the application requirements are exactly the same for the CDBG housing rehab application. So every time there's an applicant that they interact with, they can become eligible for not only the housing rehab funds through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, but they can also become eligible for Wayne Metro's Community Action Agency's weatherization program through the Department of Energy. There's other services. Yeah. Wayne Metro's primary purpose is to serve low-income individuals in Wayne County. And so by doing that, not only will they have access to those building improvement services, but they'll also have access to some of the other services that Wayne Metro provides. They do free tax preparation, they do income counseling, they do loan counseling, they do a whole number of programs.
Yeah, great head start
Yep.
in our area.
So that's basically the gist of the program. What we'll be doing when the announcements are formally made, we're going to be pushing heavily and marketing it heavily to our residents to make sure that they know that the program's available so they can take advantage of it.
When will the application be ready?
We don't have a definitive date yet. It will be soon because there is a time limit when the funds are available, and we want to make sure they get taken care of and spent. So it will be very soon.
And I would assume that the funds will be available, starting July 1st, because that is the year for CDBG funding, starts July 1st and goes through the June.
It was a very competitive grant. There was a lot of people that were going after it. It was the fact that we went regional, and a lot of people didn't. I mean, I feel bad for Inkster. They really could have used this money. They did have a lot of needs, we were the ones that showed that we'd be regional with the money.
I have to thank the supervisor for going after this grant. It was almost unheard of my last term. And money was scarce then too, I have to say, but you have been very aggressive in seeking funds out like this, so thank you. Kudos to you.
Thank you. Kudos to Sherry, she's still on the
And
board.
Sherry. We got it in.
Yeah, when I heard the money was available, I said, who's the evaluators? And they gave me a list, and they said, and the treasurer Bud from somewhere.
Who?
I said, what? I said, we're going after that one full bore. All right. Thank you very much, directors. Great job. Dan, you got to get your walking shoes on. Okay, Mr. Delaney.
I have an announcement. Are you done with your announcement?
No, just a
I'm
second.
sorry. Nothing else?
Aldi's?
That's what I was gonna announce. Aldi's is soft opening on Thursday.
Right.
Actually,
I'm proud of that one.
And Reggie, Trustee Miller is the one that pushed for
Yeah.
Aldi's.
Yes, Paul, I
Yeah,
did. I approached them.
Make the
So
announcement, make the announcement.
Thursday, they're having their grand opening.
No, soft opening.
Soft opening. Well, they called it a grand opening for
Right.
us, so, yes, I'm very excited, at 8 o'clock. Yes, so, very excited about that one,
but we're gonna be there.
and we're all gonna be there, I hope.
Ribbon cutting at 8:25.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
And then we're going straight over to
USC College.
U.S. Ecology for a tour of U.S. Ecology.
Wow, we've been busy and successful.
Yes.
Great team.
Exactly.
Okay, so are there any other non-agenda items? Public comment?
Good evening again, staff and board. 2 items. I'll blow through one real quick, and then the second one's going to be followed up with other residents. As you see, Supervisor McNamara, I'm thinking of the way that this agenda was lined up actually had a snafu, and it showed again today. And I mention it every time I come up here when I speak, because what had happened is that back 6 years ago or so, the agenda set up was nefariously set up to keep from residents talking about things to antagonize the board or to push forward thought. And the reason why I say that is because if you go by the comments, public comments ahead of your new business, you may not be able to know what you're going to talk about. So for instance, today was that call. I've been saying that for 6 years, all the way back to Paul White's because he's the one that did this, to stop the public comment for some battles that we had. So would you look into that so that the residents could have a conversation under new business items if something comes up that has not been talked about before, like number one that you just did? You moved something yesterday off the voucher list, nobody had a chance to talk about it, and so a resident may have wanted to ask a question, but the protocols would put them out of order to talk about it in the non-agenda.
After the meeting, because I'm not quite getting what you want.
But it's at your discretion, too.
Exactly.
You can allow public comment, even though our rules say different, so you were granted that, so.
But in the
absolutely, it's
future,
on a
nobody-
case-by-case basis.
In 28,000 residents of the township, nobody has, not as brash as I can be. So you
I
have
can't
some
argue with that.
very timid residents that will not come up and beat the doors down and threaten to drag me out of here to get something out. I will do that, and people call me all the time, and I will do that. Moving ahead. Fifth Amendment to the host agreement. Haven't heard anything. It's been banging my phone, ringing my phone off the wall. Supervisor, I know that you promised
I'm
back in
actively
November.
working on
I know
that.
you have. I can honestly say that I've seen your second desk off and it's stacked up. But would you make some comments to residents, because there's another one here that's going to be talking about it. And I'm going to caveat that by saying, what about the methane gas that I've been screaming and yelling about, that we should get some sort of royalty? I've approached you with it in a backroom conversation. I haven't brought it to the board, but I gave you some stipulations from other communities in Michigan that have sued and have gotten $30 million back monies because of nefarious dealings with energy, green, renewable energies and methane gas companies and landfills.
Okay, and currently, we are still negotiating, but we're right now at the same position that this board knows we're at. We are looking at hiring Plant Moran to review Waste Management's landfill books. This is unprecedented for them, but we have to have trust in these negotiations, and the only way I can have trust is through third-party validation. There is a problem there because of the fact that there's gotta be confidentiality, but as soon as there becomes confidentiality, it can't come to the government. So as of today, we're very close to figuring out how we can do this, where they can open their books to Plant Moran. Plant Moran can go through those books, and yet we can still get the information that we get, because once we get them, you have them. We are a transparent organization. So we're at that point. On the other side of it though, because once we have that third-party validation, we have been ongoingly FOIAing. We've discovered the beauty of FOIA. We've been getting burned by it for years. It takes a lot of time and work, but it's pretty easy to FOIA a government. So we have FOIA'd pretty much every single landfill in the state, everyone that produces gases. We have gone after the GIDRA, Detroit Resource Association, that burns wood and demo debris. We've gone after a gas plant or two. We've gone after a transfer station. We will have the Bible on host agreements, and we will analyze each and every one of them and compare them to what we are getting, and we'll know what Waste Management is truly spending as a percentage of their revenue.
Okay, and so in future, that will be, I don't care about closed doors and non-committals, but what I'm saying is, you did pay attention to the agreements
Yes.
from west of us, that I showed you those
Yes,
lawsuits.
I did.
And they're viable.
And just to let you know, the comment I got back was they ran out of gas 2 years ago.
No,
So
they
there
got
hasn't
$30
been
million
but I
and they're
haven't-
still pumping
I haven't
gas.
checked into it yet,
Right.
okay?
Waste Management is not open and
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah. Well, I've got somebody auditing their books, so.
But are they auditing the first agreement, not the third and fourth?
No, I'm not auditing the agreement. I'm auditing what they're actually doing there.
But the host agreement is what
Don't care
you
about
are
the
being-
agreement. I want to know the dollars, the tonnage, I know the tonnage. I want to know the dollars.
But what changed the host agreements? That's what you need to look into.
You know, I like the host agreement I got right now, but I don't think I'm gonna, we'll see what I can do. Yeah.
You should, it's a good one.
Damn right it is. Sorry.
Okay, I'm Ernie Tozer, 9200 Hannon Road.
Oh, yeah.
I spoke briefly last year with you regarding the Fifth Amendment to the host community agreement for the landfill. At that time, the new board said they understandably hadn't had time to address this amendment, but would do so as soon as possible in the new year. Okay, so now it's March and I'm back. I see in the Belleville Independent that this Fifth Amendment has been referred to the Environment Commission. Makes me wonder why. Has the board reviewed this amendment? Have you even read the amendment? And the host agreement and all of the amendments? Because it just doesn't seem like what we are doing relative to the expansion of the landfill, we shouldn't even be in the business. I have read the host community agreement, and the first two amendments. Unless something has changed in amendments 3 and 4, expansion of the landfill south into the commercial development property, which is what they call that piece of ground that the golf course is on. Expansion into that commercial development property is not an option. The property cannot be used for any landfill or any and/or landfill-related activities. Our township officials and our waste management officials apparently agreed to that and have signed those documents. Yet our township board apparently supported entering into negotiations with waste management. And I can only say, why are we doing that? That is all.
Okay, I will be blunt as I can be. We put what was it called, a deed restriction?
Yes.
We put a deed restriction, which basically said you cannot expand into this area, this
Right.
golf course.
Exactly.
Their attorneys, who are landfill gurus, tell us that once we remove that deed restriction, they can expand into that golf course.
Why would we do that?
Why would we do that? Because you like to pay 5 mils a year taxes, and that landfill is yielding probably 4 mils. So your taxes would immediately go to 9 mils.
We should have been looking down the road at where we were going to wind up with this thing when we started spending all the money that we were getting from those tipping fees.
We
Okay?
spent the money on operations to maintain low taxes.
Be that as it may, we did that, and nobody explained to me what was going on. You know, they tell you when you're going to get ready to retire, you should start living on what your retirement income is going to be for a while to see how you can handle things, all right? We have been sitting there, fat, dumb, and happy, spending this money coming from the landfill, which eventually is going to run out. Sooner or later, that's going to happen. But why are we doing this in a vacuum? If you know it's happening, you're not telling everybody that it's happening. So,
There are 2 ways to work landfill money. There is the way I'd like to work it, which is not the way we work it here, and it's not the way it's ever going to probably work here. The way I would like to work it is that landfills are a nuisance to me. Garbage trucks are a nuisance to me. Because they are a nuisance, that landfill pays a nuisance tax. I, in my theory, want to take that tax and create quality of life to offset the nuisance of a landfill and the garbage trucks that we have to endure. But somewhere along the line, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we began living off of landfill proceeds and maintaining low taxes. I like ex-trustee Jeff Jar's comment that landfill income has become a drug to this township.
Well, it has.
We used it more and more and more to fund operations, and I personally have always been against that. But the other side of it is to tell people that we're going to bump their taxes to what Canton says, because that's what Canton does. They take all their landfill proceeds, they paid for their entire park system. Their Summit's was built, a lot of it with it. Their administration building, their police building, their soccer fields. It was all built with landfill money, but they maintained high tax rates to maintain the operations of the city. We've maintained low tax rates by utilizing landfill reserves. I would like us to wean a little bit off of that. That's a decision for the people.
and I agree. But I still look at it and I say, we have an agreement today. It's signed, everybody agreed to what was put in there, all right? And now we want to stand back and say, well, we've spent all the money, we've got to keep the money coming in from the landfill, so we're going to void portions of that host agreement in order to make us okay. And I don't think that's okay. I think that document was put together, and a lot of people spent a lot of time to make sure that we were covered. And the day that we did it, we were covered. Now, things change. A lot of things can go wrong. You can go in a lot of different directions. But it just...
Sir, we don't hear that from very many people. They want the landfill proceeds. They like where the landfill is, tucked off into the corner.
Sure, right down the street from my house. So
I
you
think
talk
that
about a
if
nuisance
you're close
tax,
to it, they've
I know
offered
all
you
about it.
150%. But the point is, I think that if you're looking to say, stop negotiating with the landfill and close it down, I don't think you're gonna get an ear here. We'll listen, but I don't think we're gonna go that
Okay,
way.
then I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the position that you're in.
But I have to
because-
tell you the truth, I don't wanna lie to you.
Well, people been lying
Really not an issue.
people been lying to me for a long time, and I'm glad that you're not going to do that. But I'm still upset with the way this is being handled, and that it's like anything else. You put time and effort into putting together a document, and then when people were doing things the wrong way, you're just going to take the pieces that are in your way and throw them away. Now, that's not why I have you up there in that position, to just change the rules as the game goes by because we didn't do something right, or, you know, and I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I'm very disappointed.
Through the chair.
Very disappointed.
I agree that there's been a grave error made maybe by the township, and that the thing that bothers me the most is that we haven't been honest and forefront with the public. The last board, when I was sitting in the audience, made this presentation, or Waste Management came up here and made they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and they're changing everything, and people are saying, and the Environmental Commission that was sitting in front of me said they didn't even know about it. And, yeah, November. And I said, well, how could you not know about it? You're the Environmental Commission. People want to understand what is happening and what their choices are. They want to be told ahead of time where we're going and what we think we're going to be doing or having to consider. I mean, these are not going to be easy choices. But I agree that a lot of time and effort went in to producing a document that had a deed restriction in it. And for us just to negate the deed restriction and change it without asking what the community thinks about it, or, you know, getting it out there, to do it behind their backs, I think, and I'm not saying they were doing it behind their backs, but that's the way I felt in the audience. That Waste Management was in with somebody here in the township, and they got this all together, and then they were gonna shove it down our throats. That's what I felt like, and as an audience and a taxpayer in the community, and I didn't like it.
And you're right.
And
that
I
happened.
agree with this gentleman, you know, that there's no easy choices here.
But
As the
fact is-
taxes go up or we keep the landfill. The mistakes, what's in the past has already been made. We can't go back. We can't change it. That money's gone, and we know we only have this much money left, and we're moving forward, you know. So I would say we've gotta, but I want it to be done out in front, and for the community to be informed and to be given a choice.
Through the chair,
Trustee Miller.
I'd also like to add that during the summer, these negotiations were going on. And as we learned of them, we attended that meeting in the fall, remember, when I called you and I informed you. But we could not agree on those negotiations, and they ceased at that point. Now, they haven't been picked up yet, to my knowledge, but that's part of the process of what happened and where we are.
Supervisor,
Sorry, trustee White?
when will the Fifth Amendment come before this board for a vote, or will it?
I am in no hurry to change the current agreement that I have, but I would like to get this done this year.
Okay, so the Fifth Amendment will probably be what we're going to be voting on when it comes before the board. Is that Fifth Amendment foiable right now to the
Nope.
public?
Well, no, there's no such thing.
Okay.
It's out there already. I mean, you can't FOIA something that we haven't done. You can add the Fifth Amendment that they discussed before, because I haven't done one.
Okay.
I've left you in my office, say, go anywhere you want. There's nothing to look for.
But, you know, the reason I'm saying this, and I feel so kind of betrayed, is that they got up there and they said, basically, this was a done deal. And they were trying to push the vote through. This was November, and they were trying to push the vote through before they got out of office.
But we pushed back.
And, yeah, and I think, you know, I think we really need to inform the public on what's happening, what has happened to the landfill money all along, and what it was used for, and be out there, out front with them, and tell them, you know, we're looking for options. Personally, I want to still get free garbage pickup. That's important to me.
I can tell you this honestly. There is one or two things that I think that they are not going to allow,
And that's one of
and
them.
that is free garbage pickup for the next 40 years.
Oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Well, this
Mr.
is going to
Tozier?
be
I think that's the line of the
interesting.
sand to them.
It is to us.
Well, maybe the golf
Sorry.
course
Chair.
is aligned
It is
in the
to us.
sand to us.
Mr. Tozier, I can assure you that I am not at all happy with the Fifth Amendment to the agreement, and I've made this public to everyone. I think that the Fifth Amendment to that agreement is not a benefit to our residents as it is written and as it has been presented to us. If that comes before the board in its current edition, I will vote no on it. And I don't have a single problem voting no on it because of the effect that it's going to have on our residents. Some of the public meetings, I don't know if you attended them or not, but you heard some of the comments that were coming out there. And I would just as soon do away with the agreement now if that's all we're going to be offered, and tax them for whatever they're going to tax, and we'll go ahead and deal with our economy the way it is, because I would never agree to it in its current form.
Mayor, they are coming to us talking about, well, this is going to end early, and that's going to end early, and all of these things are going to end early.
Nothing that's been discussed, I can just tell by discussion, by the talk that we've had, that the only thing I can tell you is that is the only thing that they are absolutely adamant that they can't handle anymore.
I understand.
Okay.
And you're talking about 40 years down the road, and in the,
Oh, no, I'm not. I got an agreement for the next 8 years. As far as I'm concerned, I can take 8 years to negotiate this thing,
okay, well.
and I will.
The document that we have today says that it's going to last, these conditions will last for the next 20 years or the length that that landfill is open. And that includes free pickup of your refuse. That's what's in the host agreement. So if
Everything is on the table, though.
sure, I understand
Okay,
everything.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
No.
No, I'm so sorry, Johnny, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You got it 2 times, huh?
Always 2 times. That's the protocol. That's why you need to relook at this protocol, because I know how to manipulate the clock. The problem is, when they came back to us in November, they brought the clock back, not 8 years. You need to really listen to what happened on that November meeting. They brought it back to 5 years. They took another 3 out of us. So, and they keep moving back. I'm saying use the leverage on the methane gas to leverage the 40 years out, because they're not spending $1.5 million to $2 million piping that right now for nothing. There is a very good cost advantage to pipe that. I can. I'm telling you, listen to me. I've been right on our little field trip on Haggerty Road that I'm not going to bring up. I'm telling you that I'm right on what I come up here and tell you. Methane gas and renewable energy with these cost green bucks is the way to go now. And the township needs to get that money before it gets to Amoresco, which has bought those landfill rights. You have the right to stop and put a meter on the south side of Van Born Road before Amoresco gets it in Canton. That's the whole purpose of the nefarious changing of the boundaries with Amoresco. You need to look into that. That's the reason why Amoresco stopped the address from Van Buren and got a new address for Canton, a new address for Wayne, and a new address for Romulus, so they can bypass Van Buren Township and not give us the royalties or tipping fees in any negotiations. That's what I've been harping on since November when I talked to the two cronies from Waste Management that shut down and ran out of here.
Okay, all right.
Supervisor John,
Yes, Tyson?
you stated that I made a statement, I changed the protocol on the agenda when I was not. No, yes, we are, because you are wrong. I did not do that. That was done right after the 8 election and the beginning of 13.
You built new
because that was changed.
protocols.
Nope, I did not. The protocol was changed entirely after I left office. I allowed the
You don't
residents.
forget we went to court
Nope,
on this
nope,
situation?
Nope, I guess I'll.
I guess you forgot about that.
No,
didn't we?
I
You
did
and I
not.
went to court
Okay.
on
No,
this situation.
no argument.
I know
You're
that.
wrong.
Set.
We got more important things. Environmental issues on this landfill is very important. And the input from the environmental committee and the state environmental people would be appreciated when we're discussing with Waste Management what is happening. Because just like Dave Wilson brought up about the coal tar, we need to know the risk of expanding that landfill, how much more of a risk it will be for our community.
That
We
is
need to
fast.
listen to the residents as well.
Yeah.
Okay, hearing no further discussion, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Moved by Miller,
Support.
supported by White. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes.